Hello again, everybody. It's Scott Casper, Takedown Wrestling. Well, one of the big news events that'll be taking place, of course, the big super fight that every boxing fan has wanted to see for many years, Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. Here to break it down with us is our good friend, Juanito Ibarra. He's in Orange County. Juanito, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you, sir? Good
Uh,
to talk to you again. It's been a
It's
while.
always good to see you. This fight is intriguing to so many. They say the fight will generate some $400 to $500 million in total receipts in a variety of different platforms. What are your thoughts on the Mayweather-Pacquiao matchup after all these years of talking about it?
Well, it's finally here, and it was inevitable. It had to happen for the sport of boxing. And the sport of boxing right now it's climbing. Look at all the network and coverage it's getting. So I think Pacquiao Mayweather is helping that escalate.
37 years old is Mayweather, Pacquiao 35. Some say both fighters approaching what some would say the twilight of their respective careers. Are we putting fighters to pasture too soon?
Maybe these two guys, uh, Floyd Mayweather. He don't drink or smoke. He don't have them bad habits. He's well preserved. Manny Pacquiao's been beat up a little bit more, but I still think he's 35 and a young 35. So I expect their best. I'll just say that.
Let's talk a little bit about posturing. Floyd Mayweather, if you call it posturing, is training perhaps more for this fight than in any fight in his professional career. What do you make of that?
He should. Pac-Man's not Pac-Man. He don't eat up people for nothing. He's one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world. He's established many tasks in the world that no one else could. But Mayweather has to really work on his footwork, his positioning when it comes to Pac-Man, or he may eat some leather. Um, so he needs to put in the work, and he's a hard worker anyway. That kid's phenomenal, and I really respect Mayweather. A lot of people don't know his character outside the television screen. He helps out a lot of people. He helps out fighters that are wayward, and I respect him a lot. But in the gym, he gives it 100%.
Compare and contrast some of the big fights in the history of the game, and we'll go back to as late as 71, early as 71 perhaps, when it was Ali Frazier at Madison Square Garden. Is this fight bigger in its overall? I understand the gate will be bigger, but is this fight bigger news?
That's a good question, really, because you remember Max Schmeling and Joe Louis. I think it was Joe Louis, Max Schmeling 2. I don't think there's any fight bigger than that. There was over 100,000 people there. Of course, the Ali Frazier, that was a phenomenal fight in itself. And I think Pacquiao Mayweather could fit right in for the biggest, not only gate, the biggest fight of all time if they really come and bring it. So I think that's the top three, and I think that's where, besides the gate, I mean, it's astronomical what these young men are going to make. Can you imagine making $100 million and over in one fight? But do they deserve it? Yeah, they deserve it.
Let's talk a bit about CompuBox and the numbers. The numbers don't always tell the whole story, but sometimes they provide us a good basis. Pacquiao's punch output throughout his welterweight campaign was phenomenal. 952 total punches in his first four bouts at welterweight. Yet now he's averaging about 670 punches per 12 rounds, at least all the way up to the end of 2014. What are your thoughts?
Well, Manny puts in the work, and he's taught well. So Manny, Manny reacts. He's a counterpuncher, and then sometimes he's the aggressor. So uh, I tell you what, Scott, stats are stats, and we're in a stat world. This fight, it's either going to be hella boring or hella exciting. I don't think there's no gray area. So he may throw less punches than he's ever thrown, or he may throw more. I just think that both combatants are going to be ready that day, and they're going to break all records. I pray that they break all records in any way. I really truly believe it. I really truly believe that it holds up to the hype, because I have some doubts about that.
Mayweather's punch stats have remained consistent throughout his entire welterweight campaign, dating back a decade or more. The only real difference, perhaps, is Floyd's opponents used to land around 20% of their power shots. Landing them on a man his age these days can take an extensive toll and take it early. Styles make fights, Coach, and we know this to be true.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's why I think Mayweather is going to be victorious because of it. Um, I think he has superior speed, his experience. He has the better chin. His footwork has slowed down a little bit, but he needs to work on the footwork. I'm telling you, where I see Mayweather, and I've always said this since the fight was ever in the embryonic stages years and years ago. It's his footwork and positioning. It's his in and out. He's very intelligent. And if he don't do that footwork work in the gym against a southpaw like Pacquiao, you're going to see him get hit more than you ever have. I still don't think it's going to be enough, but again, he has to do that work. And his punches are going to count on the counter. So if Pacquiao doesn't commit when Mayweather's moving right, Pacquiao has a good shot with his right hook to land it, and then the left coming in after it instead of vice versa.
Compare and contrast, is Pacquiao the power puncher in this bout?
Absolutely.
No question.
No question. But you got to remember, that's a good question, but you got to remember speed is power. And they both have speed. But it's how you use your power and your speed. So I'll say yes to that question because the way you asked it. Ultimately, speed is power. And again, you're not going to have the speed and you're not going to touch the guy if your feet aren't in the right positioning and your movement's not right. And I'll say again, and I teach, feet before hands. And I always teach a student their feet, their movement, their positioning for their hands. Once they learn how to throw combinations, they'll land more than they wouldn't if they didn't know their footwork. So again, I think it's in the feet. Speed is power, but definitely one punch power. If that's your question, I give it to Pacquiao.
Mayweather is a true 47-pounder. And I believe since 2005, a true gym rat, walking around about a $150 year round. Meanwhile, I think Pacquiao, this is what the sport is saying. Kenny Rice and others are saying this, that he has going to have to bulk up to make up the difference to make 47. He's going to have to truly bulk up. Is that going to work against him or for him?
That's a good question. In the sport of boxing, I'll say the majority, it can work against them because they just don't know how to apply it. I know if Justin Fortune, my dear friend Justin, is back working with Pacquiao, I think it could enhance it. I think it, with his ability and with the right coaches like Justin, I think it can help him. But overall, I'm telling you, I don't think it's going to be enough.
Both guys, outside of the ring, off the mat as it were, accomplished in business, accomplished in politics. Pacquiao, a congressman for goodness sakes, and surely Mayweather, one of the most accomplished businessmen the boxing business has ever seen. Is it the right time politically, and is it the right time business-wise for this fight to happen?
Yeah, it is. It has to be. Father Time takes his place. All the questions you've asked are great questions because of their body. They're not 25-year-old kids, no more with piss and vinegar in them. It's all about intelligence, training the right way, staying injury-free, having the right team around you, if that's the team that should be around you, to give the fans the best. I just hope that they engage. You got to remember, boxing, not wrestling or MMA. It's a science, right? It's a science. It's a touching science, and that's what might be lackluster. You got. I always say Hagler Hearns. Is it Hagler Hearns or Hagler Leonard? Well, it's Pacquiao Mayweather, right? And the other fighters, like the Hearns, they engaged. Like the Haglers, they engaged. Even Leonard engaged at times when he beat Hagler. I still haven't argued. I still argued that fight. But you're talking about a guy that don't like to get hit. Probably the best defensive fighter that's ever lived in Floyd Mayweather Jr. And then you got the bull like Manny with intelligence. What's really going to happen? I hope all the fight fans get their money, and I hope the fighters engage. Um, that being said, I still say Mayweather's too smart, too fast, and if he does his footwork, he'll be victorious.
And Bob Arum, I think, is representing Pacquiao, is he not?
Bob is, yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody should get their money then. For former undisputed heavyweight champ Lennox Lewis has weighed in on this fight, and like most, as of late, he's siding with Mayweather to get the victory. Do you agree?
I agree.
Hands down.
I agree. I've always said it. I've never backed from it. I tell you, I really admire that Pacquiao. You know, I had a kid, Rodrigo Garcia, fighting on his undercards here in the late last years. Rodrigo's he's shelved right now, but I got the pleasure to be around Pacquiao before he was saved or born again, and even now with following the Lord as I do, and he's just a prize outside the ring. And then you look at Mayweather. You know, I'll tell you a little story. I don't know how many people know, but 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 there was a great champion named Chicanito Hernandez who lived here in Orange County. He was one of the great lightweight champs. Very humble man. I think he was a two-time two-division lightweight champion, and he died broke. You know, he had a lot of problems out here with his home and stuff like that, and he fought it for years and he put his money into that. But what a family man, what a gentleman, Chicanito, Gennaro Hernandez. And at his funeral, I was at his funeral. There was 1,000 people there. It was incredible. But you know who paid for that funeral? Floyd Mayweather Jr. He paid for that whole funeral and never said nothing to anyone. And a guy like that people judge all the time, and you know, he's a showman, but you got to give a man like that a little tap on his back and say thank you. And they're both great people out of the ring, in my opinion, and they're great warriors.
And that we will give to Floyd Mayweather. There are champions like that that are champions in life,
Absolutely.
as well as in the boxing ring. BBC Radio has quoted Lennox Lewis as saying, and this is an observation I think by Lennox that many of us will agree with. Floyd is the best at sidestepping a movement. It's very quick and hard to hit. Pacquiao, meanwhile, great guy when it comes to offense, trying to break a person down. He's trying to knock you out every single time he throws a shot at you, dude. I mean, it's not like this is a dance. He's not trying to put on a show. He's trying to knock you out.
That's the thing. I said it earlier. He's the bull, and there's the matador. You got Mayweather, and again, it's footwork, and Mayweather possesses that. But you got to remember, from a teacher standpoint like myself and a science standpoint, it's different when you fight from the opposite end. If you look at Mayweather's fights against southpaws, and he fought one I think a few years ago, he had a little bit of trouble. He had a little bit of trouble, and that tells me that he doesn't put the time into that. So he has to put the time into the footwork of fighting the southpaw, like a bull, like Pac-Man. And I hope he does that to make the fight even easier.
Well, it all takes place this Saturday night in Las Vegas, Nevada. The big fight, the fight they said would never happen, 5 years in the making. I differ. I think it's a lifetime in the making for both fighters and the sport and the fans of the sport. The sweet science will be on display again this Saturday night. Will you tune in? Will you be buying the $100 plus pay-per-view? Mayweather versus Pacquiao. It's always a pleasure to talk to one of the great trainers, one of the best cutmen I've ever known. A guy can get in your ear and you're listening to him, even if there's 10, 20, 30,000 people screaming. You hear exactly what Juanito Ibarra is saying, and by God, his words have always been golden. Juanito, we love you. Thanks for the time, brother.
Thank you. God bless you, and hope to see you soon.
Juanito Ibarra, I'm Scott Casper for Takedown. Thanks for watching the special one-on-one with one of the great guys in the sport.